No one likes going to the movies alone. But my so-called friends bailed on me at the last minute, and I was left stranded at the cinema. Since I had already been waiting for almost an hour at the movie theater, I decided to go see a movie anyway. The turnout wasn't all that great. Perfect? What kind of title was that for a movie? But it was either this or Dark Phoenix, so I thought I would give it a chance.
Well, this is cool. And these are just open? Strange.
About halfway through the movie, I noticed something strange in the corner of my eye. While everyone was looking forward at the screen, someone was looking in the opposite direction.
The movie, The Shining. This like little hallway.
I glanced behind me, but I couldn't see anything of interest. Then I realized this person was looking back at me. At first, I thought it was just some kid, but as I looked closer, I realized that it was an older man. His eyes were wide open, and I could see a faint smile appearing on his face. So I pulled out my phone and pretended to send some text messages. At least the strong glare from the screen of my phone made it easier to ignore him. Eventually, I ran out of things to do with my phone, and I checked to see if the guy was still staring at me. Fortunately, it appeared that whoever it was had run out of patience and continued watching the movie. But it wasn't long before a sudden movement to the far left of the cinema caused me to turn and look, only to realize that the same creep that was staring at me before had moved to the other end of the row where I was seated. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck raise as I looked directly forward again, trying to avoid giving any further attention.
Footsteps here? What do you think? Oh my gosh, why would you do that? No. No, I don't.
As I cautiously scanned for the nearest exit to my right, I felt a strange vibration. I looked to my left and saw that he had moved a few seats closer. I looked away, trying to recall how many seats were between me and him. Without thinking twice, I stood up and ran for the exit. As I reached the main hallway of the cinema, I tried to call one of my friends for help, but I realized my phone was gone. I must have dropped it as I was running for the exit. It felt like such a big risk to go back in there, but then I heard a commotion coming from inside. It sounded like the movie had finished and everyone was heading for the exits. So I patiently waited as everyone poured into the hallway. I quickly snuck back inside, and I was relieved to see that all the seats were empty, and there was no sign of that guy from earlier. I just needed to find my phone and be on my way. I couldn't see much against the dark floor and poor lighting, but I was optimistic when I suddenly heard my phone ringing. I looked around frantically to find it, but it sounded like it was coming from the other end of the cinema. I followed the sound until it led me to one of the trash bins next to the front row seat. I couldn't imagine why anyone would throw a perfectly good phone in the trash instead of handing it in or even stealing it. The cinema staff were probably already on their way to clean up, so I had to be fast and find my phone before they showed up. After rummaging through the trash, I finally found my phone, but I almost wish I hadn't when I realized it was covered in blood. Suddenly, it all made sense. When I realized I had walked into a trap, I instantly looked behind me and saw him almost grabbing me. I dropped everything and just ran out of the theater, this time without even stopping. I never did quite get over the events that took place that day at the movies, but I knew I needed to move on and come to terms with the fact that a public place isn't always a safe place, especially at night.